She pretended to be too busy. Until I found out the truth. She said it so casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Sorry, I'll be late tonight. Work's crazy. I believed her. Of course I did. I trusted her. I thought I knew her rhythms, her moods, her patterns. I thought I could read her like an open book. She had been too busy for weeks now. Long nights at the office, sudden last-minute meetings, phone calls she took in another room, texts that vanished before I could even glance. At first, I told myself it was just stress. That's what happens when careers get demanding. Everyone has a busy season. Everyone has obligations. Everyone gets tired sometimes. But somewhere in the quiet spaces between her excuses, I started to feel the distance creeping in, slowly and silently, like a shadow stretching across a sunlit room. We used to talk over dinner, planning our weekends, sharing silly stories, or reminiscing about vacations and dreams. Now she ate alone, often after I'd already gone to bed, the clatter of her utensils a hollow echo in the otherwise empty apartment. We used to laugh at nothing, little inside jokes only we understood, jokes that made our small apartment feel alive. Now silence filled the spaces where laughter used to live, and I caught myself staring at the ceiling, wondering when she stopped noticing me. The worst part wasn't her absence. It was the way she'd smile when she finally came home, as if that single gesture could erase the hours she'd been gone. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. A practiced curve of lips that felt distant, alien, like it belonged to someone else entirely. I told myself not to worry, that I was being paranoid, that relationships go through dry spells, that I was overthinking, that I was imagining things. But in the back of my mind, one thought wouldn't leave me alone. If she was really so busy, why did she always come home smelling faintly of someone else's cologne? A scent subtle enough not to alarm, but precise enough to linger in my chest and tighten my stomach. It started with the small things, the details you don't notice at first but accumulate like dust in a forgotten corner. Her phone lighting up on the counter, face down. Always face down, as if hiding something. The way she'd step into the hallway to answer a call, lowering her voice like even the walls shouldn't hear. The way she occasionally laughed quietly to herself over text messages, glancing at me nervously as if I might notice. One night, she came home later than usual. I asked where she'd been. Team dinner, she said. But her coat smelled faintly of perfume I didn't recognize. Not hers, not mine. Too sweet, too heavy, intoxicating in a way I hadn't smelled before. And when I asked who went to dinner, she rattled off names too quickly, like she'd rehearsed the list a dozen times before stepping through the door. Another night, she claimed she was working late at the office. But when I drove past the building on my way home, the parking lot was empty. Her car wasn't there. A cold wave of doubt swept through me, sharp and sudden, and I realized my trust had begun to fracture. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started noticing more. The missed calls she ignored when I was in the room. The sudden text alerts she swiped away before I could even glance at the screen. The lipstick smudged just enough to suggest she'd been careful, but not careful enough. It was like living beside a stranger. The same face, the same voice, but a script I no longer recognized, written in a language I didn't understand. And every time she said, "I'm just tired," a part of me wondered if what she really meant was, "I'm tired of you." I didn't need a screaming match. I didn't need to corner her or demand answers she'd only twist into excuses. What I needed was the truth. Quiet, undeniable, impossible to talk away. So I waited. I started paying attention to her patterns. Every Thursday, she was working late. Every Saturday, she had brunch with friends. The same words, week after week, like lines from a well-worn play. One Thursday, I told her I had to stay late at work too. She smiled, almost relieved, and kissed me goodbye before rushing out the door. But I didn't go to the office. I followed her. Not close enough to be seen. Just far enough to watch her car turn down a street that didn't lead anywhere near her building. I parked a block away, heart pounding, fingers gripping the steering wheel hard enough to leave dents. And then I saw it. Her car outside a small, dimly lit restaurant. Her walking inside. And a man, waiting for her, standing to greet her like he'd done it 100 times before. They didn't look like co-workers. They didn't look like friends. They looked like two people who had been rehearsing their own secret story while I sat at home believing hers. I didn't go in. I didn't confront them. I just sat there, watching through the rain-soaked windshield, letting the truth settle over me like cold water. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something strange. Not anger. Not jealousy. Just clarity. I drove home in silence that night. No music, no thoughts loud enough to drown out what I had just seen. Only the steady rhythm of the wipers brushing away the rain, the same way I wished I could brush her out of my life. When I walked into the apartment, she wasn't there yet. Her coat wasn't on the rack. Her shoes weren't by the door. That gave me time. I pulled out a suitcase from the back of the closet, the same one we'd used on our honeymoon. Funny how objects don't change meaning until the person attached to them does. I started folding clothes, not rushing, not panicking. Every shirt, every pair of jeans felt like another piece of myself I was taking back. On the kitchen table, I left a note. Just a few words. Not anger, not begging, not accusations. Only the truth she had given me, in her absence, in her lies. I loved you enough to trust you. You loved me enough to lie. By the time her key turned in the lock, I was already gone. No screaming, no final scene, no closure. Because closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide for yourself. The first call came just after midnight. I didn't answer. Then the text started. Where are you? We need to talk. Don't be childish. By morning, her tone had shifted. You're misunderstanding everything. It was only dinner. I still love you. But the words didn't land the way they used to. They didn't sting. They didn't pull me back into the cycle of doubt and guilt. They just felt hollow. I watched the screen light up with her name again and again, until I finally silenced the phone. Not because I was tempted, but because I wasn't. 4 years, her voice had been the center of my world, dictating when I felt loved, when I felt guilty, when I felt small. Now, for the first time, her words had no weight. They were just noise in the background of my new quiet. And in that silence, I felt stronger. Because I realized she wasn't calling out of love. She was calling because she had lost control. And control was the only thing she ever really wanted. The first morning without her felt strange. Not painful, not lonely, just unfamiliar. The bed was half empty, the apartment quiet. But in that quiet, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. I made my own coffee, sat by the window, and watched the sun climb over the city. It was a simple ritual, nothing special, but it was mine. For once, I wasn't waiting on her mood to decide how the day would go. I took walks. Long ones. No destination, just the sound of my footsteps and the rhythm of my own breathing. I started eating better, cooking for myself, rediscovering flavors I'd forgotten. I even started sketching again, something I had abandoned long ago, something she had always rolled her eyes at. I opened an old journal, the one I used to write in before life became a blur of work and arguments. The words came slowly at first, shaky, unsure. But the more I wrote, the more I remembered who I was before I became just hers. Friends noticed the change. They said my voice sounded lighter, that I laughed more easily, that my eyes didn't look so tired anymore. And they were right. Because every small step, every meal, every walk, every word on the page, was a piece of myself coming back. Not the version she had molded, but the person I was meant to be. It was almost 3 weeks before I saw her again. A knock at the door, soft, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if I'd open it. When I did, she stood there holding a sweater I'd left behind, like that one piece of fabric could be her excuse to see me. Her eyes were swollen, her voice careful. I miss you, she whispered. For a moment, I looked at her the way I used to, the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. But all I saw now was a stranger who had gambled our love and lost. I'm not angry, I said quietly. Her eyes lit up, almost hopeful. But I'm not yours anymore. She froze. The sweater slipped from her hands, landing on the floor between us. I gave you everything I had, I continued. And when you needed more, you didn't ask. You just left to find it somewhere else. Her lips trembled. Maybe she wanted to argue, maybe to beg. But nothing came. Finally, she nodded. Just once. And then she turned, walking down the hallway and out of my life for good. I closed the door, leaned against it, and let the silence wash over me. Not heavy. Not lonely. But light. Free. And in that moment, I understood something. I didn't lose her. I lost the version of myself that needed her. And that was the greatest gift of all.